Hi, I'm Hannah, and I'm going to do a git merge followed by a git rebase with conflict resolutions, and then we're going to compare the two. But first, we're going to do some setup with changing the users, making branches, making commits on those branches. If you want to jump to the rebase and merge, jump ahead. All right, so right now we are on a master branch, and we have a git folder with all our git information in it, and a story. Let's take a look at that story and maybe edit it. It's a story about a horse. Girl number 20, unable to define a horse, said Mr. Gradgrind. So on line 9, now girl number 20, you know what a horse is. Let's make this story better by changing it from horse to deer. All right, we made 4 substitutions on 4 lines. Right, quit, get out of that text editor. And you can see we now have a dirty repository, and we are going to commit it not on this branch, but on a different branch. So we'll say git checkout and create a branch at the same time, 2 actions, dear feature. And because we are going to eventually be seeing different users resolving their problems together, let's change the user too, just for fun. Then git config, it's over in this file, and got Charles. We can change Charles to Fawn Doe, and we can change the email address to fawn@deer.com. Right, quit. All right, so if we look at git status, we modified the story. It doesn't say anything about the user. It didn't see that. Git didn't see that. And we are going to add and commit our change to the story. So git add story. And on the same line, git commit with the message -m, make story about a deer. Story is not a git command. It's true, story is not a git command. Let's go back and say git add story. That's a git command. And I just pushed the up arrow if you were curious what happened when I got that information at my prompt so quickly. All right, now our prompt is green and it doesn't have any dots or crosses. That means everything is hunky-dory. We are working with a clean repository. If we look at git log, we have the commit made. Let's make one more commit. Echo, that means print this information, make this information that's coming up next, typically printing out to the command line. And instead we're going to put it to a file. Deer will eat anything fragranced at campgrounds, including soap. And let's put that in a deer file. All right. If we type git status again, what's happened? We have a new untracked file. Let's say git add deer and git commit with the message add interesting deer information. All right, we have a clean repository on the deer feature branch. Let's check out a new branch, and we're going to base it on master again. So first we'll make the branch, git branch. This will be our codfish feature. We will base it on the master branch. Without that second name, it would be based on the deer feature, but we're telling it explicitly. Let's make it on the master branch. So let's also check out the codfish feature. And if we say git log, we can see all we have in that is that initial commit from Charles Dickens. Let's change our git user and email as well. So we're going to do this differently this time. Git config user.name is going to be cod row, our expert about codfish. Git config user.email is going to be codfish.io. All right, if we want to just confirm that we got to the same place in a different way as before, we can by looking at our git config file. What happened? All right, it's no longer Charles Dickens. It's no longer font row. It is, font doe. It is now cod row. Great. What's next? Let's make some commits. Cod row can definitely improve that story. Girl number 20, unable to define a horse. And let's make it about, instead of horses, we'll make it about codfish. Much better. Write and quit. All right, we can commit that change. And this is adding and putting in the message all in the same line. Git commit -am, make story about codfish. Great. And let us also, codfish are related to codefish. Put a little bit of information about codfish in a file that we will call codfish. So right now we've got a codfish file, a story, and our Git repository. Let's add the codfish file and commit it with the message add important codfish information. Great. And let's do one more thing that's going to conflict with our dear feature repository. So we will say echo deer are not as wonderful as codfish, and put that in a deer file. And we will add that. The period is a wildcard, and we will also commit it, git commit, with the message add deer information related to codfish. So if we say git log and just put it all in one line, we can see we made 3 codfish related commits, and we also have our master branch commit, and we are ready to bring in some of those deer related changes. Let's start out by making a new branch and doing the merge on that branch so that just in case something goes wrong, we can go back to our earlier branch and it's not a pain. So we'll say git checkout -b. We're making a branch and checking out at the same time. Merge deer feature into codfish. All right, now we are on the merge deer feature into codfish branch. Kind of a long name, but very descriptive. And we haven't changed anything yet. We're going to do that with the command git. Actually, let's just look at the git log first. So let's do it in one line. Git log, and even just put it right here. All right, so we're on a new branch. It's got all the same information as the codfish feature branch. And we are going to do our work here. So git merge deer feature. And we have a merge conflict in story, as well as a merge conflict in deer. merge conflict in deer, merge conflict in story. If we type get status, we can see these are our two conflicts, deer and story again, in a different way. Let us fix those conflicts. So here you can see our head is talking about deer are not as wonderful as codfish. So our cod row character wrote this information that's at the head, and our deer wrote this information that's a little bit lower. And you know, I think the deer's information is actually more helpful, so we are going to delete the information that I wrote originally as codfish, and we are going to just get rid of those conflict markers. And now we have the deer's version. All right, let's write and quit out of here. Great. Get status. So Git doesn't really know that you fixed things. We're going to have to stage that change. So we'll say git add deer, git status. All right, so now it knows we have staged the version of deer where we've resolved the changes the way we want it to. Let's do the same thing with story. All right, the head says girl number 20 unable to define a codfish. I think that's good. The story is much stronger when it's about codfish. We are going to jump ahead and look down, and let's get rid of this version that talks about deer. I don't think this story is as good when it's about deer. Right, and quit. All right, we're going to git add story. Let's look at the git status again. Deer is modified, everything's resolved. Let's do what Git is telling us, which is git commit to conclude merge. All right, git commit with the message resolve deer and codfish related conflicts. All right, great. Now let's do the same thing again, but differently. We're going to rebase this time. So we will make a new branch, git branch, and this branch is going to be called rebase codfish feature onto deer feature. And it is going to be based on the codfish feature branch. And now we will check out the rebase branch. Let's look at the history just to make sure, just to see. All right, so we have here again our 3 codfish related commits and our commit from the master branch. What are we going to do next? We are going to clear the screen since there's a lot going on, and rebase, git rebase deer feature. All right, now what did Git say it was doing? Scroll up. It's rewinding the head to replay your work on top of it, applying make story about codfish, and having conflicts, merge conflict and story, telling us to resolve the conflicts. So right now it's only seeing the conflict from story, not the conflict from deer. Let's see what git status says, both modified story. This is because, well, let's just look at story and it'll tell us the story. Head, girl number 20 unable to define a deer. Now, if you can remember back in your head to a couple minutes ago, the head, when we did the merge, here said codfish, not deer. What's different? When we rebase, we go to the branch that we are rebasing from, and we are using that as our starting point and applying changes to that. So this is our codfish, and our codfish doesn't want the story to be about a deer. So we are going to delete all the way down to, let's see, line 11. And let's see, girl number 20, unable to define a codfish, said Mr. Gradgrind. Great. Such a better story when it's about codfish. All right, so let's keep going. And let's delete that conflict marker too. And we will get out of here, right? Quit. And we will add that story change we made. And we'll say get rebase dash dash continue. All right. What is happening now? Auto merging deer conflict. Merge conflict in deer. So when we did our merge of the two branches, everything was all in one lump together. Now that we're doing this rebase, it's trying to apply the changes commit by commit. So we're going to have to resolve this deer file where, again, the head is at the deer information. So this is the opposite of when we did our merge. And you know what? I really like what Fawn put in here. I think it's much more interesting than this comparison. So let's get rid of that. And just leave it the way Fawn wrote it. Right? Quit. And so we're going to say git commit. Oh, actually, sorry. Git rebase continue. That's what Git told us to do, and that's what we're going to do. Fix conflicts and then run git rebase continue. All right. And now it says no changes. Did you forget to use git add? No, we didn't. We did it right. We resolved our conflicts manually. We marked them as resolved, and we tried to continue. And now Git's a little bit stuck. You can just confirm by typing git status, nothing to commit, working tree clean. So we've got a little bit of a bug in the system. We'll just say git and rebase dash dash skip. All right. We rebased our codfish feature onto the deer feature. Let's look at our log. And if we go to the start, we have Charles Dickens' commit starting the story. Fawn Doe made the story about a deer, added information about the deer. Codrow made the story about a codfish, added important codfish information, and we don't see an additional commit, unlike the merge. So those are two differences right there. The conflict markers, the order where the head was, were flipped between the merge and the rebase. In the rebase, we had to resolve any differences commit by commit by commit. If you had a lot of commits with a lot of conflicts, that could be really painful. So now let's do a side-by-side comparison of the SHAs for the two, the hashes for the two branches. So we will check out the merge on the left, and we'll say git log graph and one line. We'll print it to this. Nah, we'll just look at it here. All right, so this is the merge, and you can see that it branches off the master. And here's codfish feature, here's deer feature, and then the head is at merge deer feature into codfish with an additional commit where they come together. All right, over here we will say git checkout rebase, and I didn't need to do that, but I did it anyway. We will look at our history and we'll do the same thing. Log with a graph on one line. And the history looks a lot simpler with the rebase. It was a little trickier to do, and we had to resolve differences one by one, commit by commit. But here it doesn't have any branching shown. It also doesn't have the same hashes. So if you look over here, make story about codfish, and you look over here at make story about codfish, the hashes are different. We rewrote history in our rebase, which we didn't do in our merge.